Hello everyone, so for today's video I decided to set myself a bit of a challenge, and that was to create an entire edit without using any plugins whatsoever. So that means no Twixtor, no Sapphire, no magic bullet looks, no nothing. Now I don't know about you, but I personally can't even remember the last time I didn't use a plugin in one of my edits. Even in my beginner stages, I'm pretty sure I was at least using magic bullet looks to make colorings, and so this challenge definitely put me well out of my comfort zone. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into how I made the edit. So usually when I start making an edit, one of the first things I do is add Twixtor to all of my clips that I'm going to be using. But obviously that was well out of the question today, so instead I opted for time remapping, which is an inbuilt effect quite similar to Twixtor. I did already have a basic understanding of time remapping, but I am by no means an expert. So I was just doing the bare minimum with my slow-mo here and basically just slowing down my clips without any kind of velocity and pretty much just keeping it as simple as it could possibly be. Now, I'm not gonna lie, if roto brushing wasn't an inbuilt effect, this video probably wouldn't exist. Since I love masking my characters and adding all sorts of additional effects around them, roto brushing is so important to my editing process, and I literally don't even want to think about going back to the days when I used to mask everything with the pen tool. And while I was making this, I was just so grateful that this is an inbuilt effect and not a plugin. Because otherwise I would have been completely screwed. Now, I ended up using a lot of overlays in this edit, mainly because they're actually a great way of adding detail without putting in too much effort, and they save my clips from looking too empty in comparison to what my usual edits tend to look like. Here you can see me adding a bunch of overlays around a circle mask of Agatha. I initially started off with some roses, but eventually I decided to get rid of them as the red felt like it was contrasting too much with the colour scheme I had going on. So instead I opted for some plant outlines, which I think look nicer anyway. I also added these tarot cards, which I really love, although I'm not gonna lie, I don't actually know an awful lot about tarot cards, but these ones are called the Magician, and from the brief descriptions I read about them, they seem to be fitting for Agatha, so that's why they're there if you're wondering why. So after I made that clip, I tried to keep to the same sort of theme that I had going on throughout the rest of my edit. I tried having a few more clips follow the same look with the plant outlines and a bit of text here and there if I needed to fill up some more space. Another plugin that I love to use in my usual edits is Trapcode Particular. The plugin basically allows you to create all sorts of particle simulations that always tend to look pretty good. In this case, I was lucky enough to be able to use the After Effects version of this plugin, Particle World, which, although not as advanced, was good enough for me to include a little particle background into a few of my clips. Although I hadn't actually used this effect before and I didn't watch any tutorials on it, so if it looks like I'm doing something wrong, it's probably because I am, but I just ended up messing around with a few settings until I came up with something that I liked that kind of looked semi-decent. I don't know, it is what it is. I think the most difficult part of this challenge for me was not being able to use magic bullet looks to make a nice colouring. I actually miss not being able to use it so much that you can see that I added it onto an adjustment layer here, just to see how my edit might have looked if I wasn't doing this challenge. I did have a bit of a hard time making something that actually looked good, because I don't think I've ever made a colouring in After Effects that wasn't using magic bullet looks, but after I messed around with a few of these effects here, I eventually made something semi-decent and added a light leak on top to make up for the lack of glowiness that I usually have in my colourings. I think my favourite effect from this edit would have to be this glowy eyes moment that I gave Agatha. The idea was inspired by an edit that I made in the past where I had done something similar, but this time I wanted to tap into the magical glowy-eyed situation that magic users tend to get in the MCU. This effect was solely made from motion tracking a few solid layers and a couple null object layers. And although it's quite a subtle thing, I'm quite happy with how it turned out. Alright, I think that's enough rambling from me. If you'd like to watch the full Watch Me edit, I'll link the 1-hour version in the description box below. Also, I've edited the audio to avoid copyright, but if you want to listen to it properly, the Instagram link will be below. And now for the moment you've all been waiting for, the final result.
And take power from the undeserving.
Overall, I really did enjoy this challenge, and I'm actually pretty happy with how the edit turned out in the end. Although I won't lie in saying that I was tempted many times to give it up and add in all of the effects that I wanted to, but I did just about manage to hold back in the end, and I'm glad I did, although I will admit I definitely do look forward to being able to use all of my plugins again. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you have any suggestions for future challenges you'd like me to do, be sure to comment them below. Bye!